Good afternoon and welcome to episode 3 of Will You Review My CV? I'm your host, Alan Wozni, and today's discussion stems from an article I posted on LinkedIn on 2nd of August 2019. The article provided examples of digital marketing SaaS or software as a service that can be applicable to a job seeker with sales and marketing background. Now, before jumping into the case study, it is necessary to provide some context for the job seekers. When I read about individuals on LinkedIn that are in search of a job, it usually comes from a couple of sources. One is my LinkedIn feed. And when the individuals post their resume or CV for all to see within their personal network. And I might see it might be a personal first contact or first LinkedIn connection or first level connection, or it might be one of my contacts has connected to a job seeker and they either liked or commented on the post and then I see it in my feed. The other time I see such job seeking posts is when they're posted in a network of a LinkedIn influencer. And I tend to follow two. There's probably many out there and coaches and other influencers. But the two that I happen to follow are Bridget Hyacinth and Oleg Vishnopolsky. So the job seekers will post very frequently on those kind of sites. So the LinkedIn profile is if I'm going to give feedback, and I've been doing this for, as I said on an earlier podcast, I've done 420 plus. 420 is the core, which I've saved, but the plus is just ad hoc advice I've given to people without saving it in my computer or wherever. So the first point of entry is their LinkedIn profile. Drilling down on the LinkedIn profile of the job seeker allows me to determine if there's an opportunity for me to even inject or provide any value, whether it's informal or ad hoc or official advice where I post it onto the websites of those influencers, or not the website, but their post. So in this day and age, a LinkedIn profile I wrote this in 2019. So 2 years ago, it was my view that a LinkedIn profile should mirror the individual's career history, their career, their education, and anything else. So it should mirror their CV and resume and anything else of relevance. And I think LinkedIn gives you some pretty good tools to add other information. I'm not here to talk about that, but I do find it ironic when people publicly post, "Will you review my CV?" Because there's also a lot of free content. There's a lot of free resources for CV or resume review. There's free resources for creating your own resume. LinkedIn's got really good information on that for creating your own CV and templates around that. SaaS verticals. Since early 2018, I followed tech newsletter investments announced in investments made in tech startups or various levels of tech companies. And that includes StrictlyVC, the newsletter. Connie Loizos from TechCrunch puts that together. The Crunchbase newsletter, the TechCrunch newsletter, Venture Beat newsletter, UKTN or UK Tech News, United Kingdom Tech News, and the Fin SMEs. Those are my predominant ones. Others float in and out for newsletters, but those ones typically give the information. They repeat. Some of them repeat what others have covered. But these publications highlight examples of SaaS investments or software as a service, which virtually cover it covers everything with some weird stuff as well. Real estate, retail, hospitality, healthcare, travel, construction, oil and gas, banking, fintech, insurance tech, insurtech, ed tech, insurance, ed tech or education, farming, ag tech, manufacturing, robotics, ride sharing, food delivery, autonomous vehicles, and virtually all disciplines. I mean, if you're a job seeker, I don't care if you're in HR or human resources, you're in accounting, you're in finance, logistics and supply chain, digital marketing, cybersecurity, data management, data science. It doesn't matter. I believe it doesn't matter your discipline. I think there's something today in the tech world that can help enable your job. What's the link between job seekers and the SaaS verticals? When I review a job seeker's profile, their LinkedIn profile, I make an effort to find a link between what I know and the relevant SaaS verticals out there today. And not the Google, here's the big list. It's what I see current, what's happening today, current investments, because I think there's so much available on the internet today. The thing I drill down on is current funding or the last year or two. And then I look at their formal education. I look at their geography, the city, the country, where the region that they're located in. The rare occasion when I don't think my advice or suggestions can be relevant, I really don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole. I just say I can't do it. That's It's not very often because I've done a lot and I probably ignored a lot because I just don't have the time or whatever. But 400 of them tells me that there's still a lot more that barely scratches the surface. So because I tend to look at a combination of the factors of above, and then I look at my practical guidance. I mean, I worked in Russia, I worked in the Middle East, I worked in oil and gas, mining, renewable energy, construction sector. So I kind of look at it from that lens, my experience, and can I bring something relevant to that? I also try to funnel the job seekers into the Angel List. It's a website which includes a lot of tech startups, but not only tech roles, but non-tech roles. So Angel List is great for that. And then I look at SaaS examples applicable to their experience. Well, digital marketing happens to be this case study, but there's other, as I said, all the different genre. If I see it, I'll tend to try to cross-reference for that individuals. A lot of individuals ask to give a reference, and if I've never worked with anybody in my network, if someone new comes into my network and I've never worked with them, don't know them other than their LinkedIn connection request, I rarely refer them to people I know, unless I do get to know them. Unless the candidate has some experience I think could help someone I know that's looking for to fill that role. But I won't refer them from a point of I know them. It's just they give the connection. So I rarely do I refer candidates to my network. They can look at my LinkedIn profile. They can find anyone they need through the connections. I keep that open. I'm not here against that. I think it's the world that should be able to have that opportunity. So everything I'm talking about today was in August 2019. Subsequent career advice recommendations. I tend to go start your own podcast. I've done a podcast, and as many will know, I've hosted Calgary Business Podcast, and I've done over 300 episodes. I think it's very easy to do, and again, it depends on the individual. If they're writing, maybe they write articles. They like to write posts on Medium. I've done that myself, and more recently, start a chat room on Clubhouse. If you've got a specific topic of interest, go to Clubhouse. So there's probably other areas I've given advice depending on the specific job seeker's profile, but that's the kind of update from 2019. Now, as I've outlined on numerous posts that I've made on LinkedIn, and actually the podcast I had was titled "Will You Review My CV?" I stopped that in December 2019 because the Calgary Business Podcast is given me spent more of my, it's taken out my time. But today, SaaS verticals represent technology innovation that is being adopted across the globe today. Not a list of ERP solutions and different, but it's what's being funded today across the globe. So I tend to look at across the globe. And in one SaaS example from the July 2019 StrictlyVC newsletter reference MindTickle. And MindTickle raised 40 million Series C funding, and they claim to work with any platform. So if there's an excuse of not adopting or not bolting on that you can't bolt on, these guys have taken care of that. And this was in July 2019. That includes linking with your calendar, linking with your CRM or your customer relationship management platform, special protocols. And the word special protocols, that was 2 years ago. It's probably it's mainstream now. Slack, Accel, Salesforce, Dropbox, Google, YouTube, and others. They'll link it for you. MindTickle even claims to be able to manage connecting their SaaS with proprietary software systems by offering an API. API is a common buzzword, and I had to Google it back then. API is application program interface, so it's allowing software to communicate. Think of your bank. When you go to your bank on your app, you have the app, and you pay the utility bill. When that service or that feature, that's an API. The bank's API, whether it's whatever bank you're dealing with, and they connect with your utility, those APIs are connecting. So that's what that is. So believe me, I'm not a tech geek. This just makes sense from a practical business point of view. And there's examples in your day-to-day life already. You order on Amazon and then the fulfilled by Amazon, that API linkage is going to the individual, the shippers and all that. Those are all interconnected. You just don't see that. So SaaS verticals, SaaS, software as a service, ignore or not to ignore? That is a good question. And on that backdrop, as I highlighted in the last episode of this channel, it's my view that learning and gaining knowledge about the SaaS vertical is applicable to any individual's job functional area. Whether you're a job seeker or you're just working and you're busy as can be, I think it's beneficial to you to become aware of what's out there, the technology. Even if your employer or where you're working doesn't allow it or it doesn't need it, doesn't see the reasons. And I highlight that in episode 2 of this channel. There's objections to adopting it, but that doesn't mean you as an individual, as a job seeker or an employee, needs to ignore that. The circumstances and reasons for objecting, they will vary. And I heard similar objections very recently. Just when I returned back, or I was leaving Qatar in 2019, an IT consultant working with a conversion project with a major U.S. utility company. He was telling me about in terms of rejection, specifically why it wouldn't work for his company. And I didn't know the circumstances. And then a cost controller here in Alberta, project cost controller working with the Canadian oil and gas company, told me that, yeah, and I'll highlight that a little bit more, why it doesn't make sense to use some of the current software for their area of work. I said this last on episode 2, ignoring SaaS innovation. Just because your current and or future employer chooses not to implement them only reduces your competitiveness, your advantage that you could have over securing roles in the future, whether it's next 18 months, next 3 years, or over the next 10 years. So SaaS verticals. How will it get me a job? And I said this again, I'm going to repeat this all the time. It won't get you a job. No SaaS will get you a job. I'm sorry, you could be the latest and greatest, but there's always going to be a new SaaS replacing that SaaS that you become an expert in. No simple answer. The simple answer is no SaaS will get you a job. But learning and understanding the SaaS verticals and how companies can adopt such innovation either now or in the future, it could help you as an individual. I have no illusion that an employee can simply storm into the office of his or her employer and get them to adopt one or more of these SaaS examples. My own personal experience is stay in your lane. You're not an IT guy. Stay in your lane. You're not a marketing guy. Stay in your lane. You're not a recruiter, HR, human resources person. You're the accountant. I just learned there's a lot of, as I mentioned, the MindTickle. I mentioned MindTickle earlier. There's a lot of creativity out there. Depending on your work stream, where your work activity, you have to find what's right for you. So let's go back to my IT consultant. Colleague working with a major utility company said, if you were on my project and started spouting off such ideas, you would be shown the door before the meeting finished. Likewise, my discussion with the Canadian cost controller up in Red Deer, she made it clear how her boss felt about adopting the latest accounting SaaS. We paid a ton for the existing system. We cannot afford any new and expensive upgrades. You'll just have to make do with the current system, despite its limitations. I mean, I ask those two. So what happened? When is the right time? When is the right time? You spend millions of dollars on consultants, and when is that threshold? So back to my objection, episode 2, and I talked about the reasons for objections. Cost was one of them. And IT guy, it does. I'm sure that's because it's not compatible, or you can't pull the data, and you need a specific consultant who can do all that for you. My suggestion to any person, is when you come across SaaS verticals that could improve your current job, that you slowly test the waters. Don't charge in and say, "Here's some new greatest SaaS." Watch your current, what's happening in the office. Think of ways you can inject it. If you've got the mandate and you're the IT, or you control the IT's purse strings or whatever, great, go ahead. But just wait for that. You may or may never be able to introduce such innovative ideas. I caution that you may never have that opportunity in your current employer, but that information is still with you. You can use it in your future employer. So let's go now to the digital marketing case study for this job seeker. This is this is advice I put on. I kept the name off of for this post. This is my article. I remember the date of the article, 29th of just early July, early August 2019. I kept the names off. I don't do that for most of the 420. The names are real, and I have that on my website. So back to my job seeker, the public appeal by this individual made it clear as to why I took the time to review their LinkedIn profile. I've been looking since March, since I was made redundant, and it's a real struggle sometimes trying to stay positive. Secondly, determining that digital marketing SaaS examples are relevant was obvious from this job seeker's profile on LinkedIn. And I'm going to go to the screen share in a second so you can see that before I'll repeat it on the screen share. From early in their career to April 2019, this individual worked in a series of marketing-related roles with titles comprised of Marketing Communications Manager, 6 years. Head of Marketing and Communications, 9 years. Senior Marketing and Communications, 2 years. Senior Sales and Marketing Manager, 2 years. And other marketing manager roles, 8+ years. When I replied to this individual's public posting, I indicate that learning about SaaS applicable to digital marketing is consistent with his path. I think it was a he or she, I can't remember. Probably a he. And the reason why is because it was probably someone from the Middle East or in India. But it could be a woman, it doesn't matter. That the digital marketing applicable to his experience, his past work experience. I wasn't making up any other story. So I'm going to share the screen now because I want to go through the SaaS examples I had posted. There's probably about 15 to 20 of them. So it's easier to see it visually than for me to speak it out. Okay. So I'm now sharing my screen. And so here's the job seeker. Here's what I've said. I've been looking since March, since I've made redundant, and it's a real struggle sometimes trying to stay positive. And then the profile, the LinkedIn profile, this is that individual. And I believe it was a male with many years of experience. It could have been a female, it doesn't matter. This is a blanket profile. So the SaaS, I mentioned earlier some of the StrictlyVC, SME, VentureBeat. I follow those religiously, daily. I get them daily. So the SaaS examples have been compiled over a year or so, from 2018, summer of 2018 through to summer 2019. I don't know, I didn't cut it off and say, this is related to digital marketing. I classified them into 3 different categories, and this is arbitrary. Someone else may look at this differently. Outreach, support, and then specialties is other. So let's look at outreach. These are some of the samples I compiled. I took the funding announcements away and just core what they do. Cliently, automated sales engagement and lead generation. Cognism, end-to-end sales acceleration platform. Outbound engine, all-in-one marketing software. I didn't dig into most of these. I don't, because it's just too much time. Partnerize, helps leading brands build powerful business partnerships. Fails well. Signpost. Signpost is pretty cool. I think I looked into that one, but power of world's largest marketing departments in the hands of local businesses, so small business. Uberall. I think Uberall is a German, not to be confused with Uber. Upfluence. Then in the support category, sorry if I didn't, Bellwether, machine learning, power, customer. So this is 2 years ago. This is 2 years ago. I imagine some of the sophistication, the companies just got better. They just got better and growing. I haven't subsequently updated this to see if they've raised more money. Near, AI enabled or artificial intelligence enabled data driven marketing SaaS products. People AI, and then Tiled. Tiled's actually pretty cool. This one I downloaded the demo because I wanted to play with it and see, because you can put presentations onto your iPod or iPad, like your pad, whatever if it's Microsoft Surface or something. But it's literally really cool. You can bring it from the big spreadsheet down and to do training and sales pitches. It's a really great tool. Zyper connects brands with their super fans. Specialty. So this is kind of the all capture all. Attentive, augmented sales assistant, integrates with Slack, and MindTickle, you remember earlier, MindTickle also integrates with Slack. It's probably through the API link. And Slack, and for those of you to update, fast forward, Slack was recently sold for probably about 15 billion. I can't remember the number, to a company called Salesforce. So Slack is quite big. CrowdRiff, AI-powered visual content marketing, native data, helps local brands assign tool to collect data they need on the ground. That's actually pretty cool. So wherever the local market is, they actually they get brand. I think they use influencers in local markets, and then attach that to collect data on the ground. So there's a bit of a manual plus, the tech involved, and then crazy AI special or artificial intelligence specializes in language generation for email marketing, push, and Facebook copy. So that's kind of cool. But again, this is 2 years ago. I think this is not a complete list. This is just my gathering it because I come across a lot of job seekers in the digital marketing space, and I have a personal interest. I think it's pretty cool, social media. Not a complete list. This is certainly could have updated a long time ago. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now. Okay. In summary, I recommend that the individual job seeker or anybody take the time necessary to learn about such SaaS, software as a service, relevant to your line, your functional area. The good thing is that SaaS, they've moved from the IT department to the operations teams. The frontline people now can control the data, the information they use on their phone or on their device. Daily decisions to help you make your day. Zoom is a product of that. Zoom was a SaaS, a free SaaS, and people were using it, and it earned the right to got into the enterprises, into the IT and the big enterprise by doing conference calling and all that. But it started off with a simple SaaS. Operations teams were using it to make conference calls internally. Non-technical staff do not need an IT degree, and you don't need to attend university classes to learn a lot of the SaaS available today. Maybe 10 years ago, I don't know. And the SaaS are very functional, and people understand that very readily how they can use it. And they're, how can you do this? Download the free demo, subscribe to the company newsletter, follow the company on LinkedIn or Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just awareness of that company. If it's specific to what you're looking for, look at who their competitors are. Find out who they are. Do that research yourself. But I think that's how you do it. Next time when I'm asked, will you review my CV? I will simply respond with, what SaaS are applicable to your job area? And what have you done to upgrade your skills in relation to such SaaS? Have a great day. Stay safe. Cheers.